Charcoal surveys the landscape of Blackness and resilience in the land of enchantment. Like charcoal, the power of Black expression is heightened by the pressure Blackness endures as it navigates the high-impact experiences on the body and psyche. Black culture is American culture is global culture. Celebrating a multi-generational group of artists, the exhibition depicts a healing universe in which the Black experience is at the forefront. So when we talk about expanding Black art into fine art spaces, what I mean is creating spaces that Black artists think of as spaces that are meant for them. And when we're talking about representation and activism, we are asking to see ourselves. As an artist, I'm informed by decolonial mindset. What that means for me is I operate off of the assumption that all institutions, education, medicine, science, the arts are part of the colonial project here in the West. And in resistance to that, I must address it at all levels, address the way that it is inherently affecting me and people like me, and the radical act of being critical. We must look at these systems and question who is benefiting from them, because somebody is. The colonial project relies on domination and exploitation of bodies, land, abilities, the mind, and the psyche. And so to actively apply decolonial mindset to your life is to ask, where are the forces of domination? And to be critical of them, reject them, without asking what's going to replace them, because they will be replaced. Those forces will be replaced by our humanity and the artist that's within each of us, the creative within each of us, that we'll need to create a more sustainable world that doesn't rely on growth mindset and expansion, that a sustainability mindset that's helped Indigenous and Black people survive on this planet for literally thousands of years before the colonial project really came into full swing. And when we think about activism, I've recently adopted the term of ongoingness. I don't want to be empowered. I have power. I don't want us to try to empower marginalized communities. They have that. That is given to them. What we want is to contribute to the ongoingness of all people. When we love somebody, we want their ongoingness. When we love our child, we want to feed them, we want their mind to grow. And when we look at communities and activism, I want all peoples to have the ability to thrive and to go on. Paula Wilson is a multimedia artist who uses paint, collage, film, installation, and printmaking as explorations of myth, race, gender, sexuality, and the natural world. There is no separation between art and life for Wilson, who makes all of her clothes and furniture with her partner. Wilson is a co-founder of the MoMA Zozo and of the Karazozo Artist in Residency.
I grew up in Chicago and then went to school in St. Louis and moved back to Chicago and then New York. And so I moved to Karazozo, New Mexico from Bushwick, Brooklyn. So there was this massive reality shift that happened right away. And when I think about what inspires me about being in New Mexico, it's so obvious to talk about the landscape and the sky and the openness. But one thing that I don't think it's talked about enough is what's missing. Actually, the lack of distraction in Karazozo has been a huge source of inspiration. I'm able to actually hear my creative voice in a way that I just can't in an urban environment. Another thing that's so amazing about the openness of New Mexico is the ability to have open arms. I mean, like I said, I live in a place of about 900 people in the high desert plains, and there's a real lack of diversity. And so one thing that's been important in my life is to bring people to Carrizozo. So we have an artist in residency program called Carrizozo Air, which brings artists into the town. And that kind of circulation of people and ideas is so crucial. We're really excited to have Kianah be an artist in our 2021 Carrizozo Air season. It's so lovely to hear that I or my way of life has been an inspiration, and it feels sort of odd to hear that because it's such a two-directional form of inspiration. I'm inspired by all the artists in this show, and I feel perpetually honored to be an artist in that we get to see each other's artwork and we get to know each other. In seeing your work, in being able to share my work, there's a kind of reciprocal fuel that keeps me going. I have not always been somebody who really tries to integrate my art in life. When I look back at the younger Paula Wilson, she thought that paying attention to my outward appearance distracted from myself as an artist. And I couldn't be more different from that today. For me, fashion is political. The role of an artist is not just to make discrete objects for the marketplace. The role of the artist, for me, is to integrate life and art, to live my life as a work of art. I wanted to be more masculine, that the artists that I saw that were taken seriously were men. And so to dress flamboyantly even appeared antithetical to what a serious artist looked like. And the desire to be taken seriously meant that you couldn't have a sense of joy, a sense of wonder and celebration. It's nice to be thought of as a prolific artist, and yet that's not at all how I envision myself. For me, the act of making is super chaotic, unorganized, and so much of what I make feels like it goes by the wayside or doesn't actually come to fruition in terms of a finished piece. The figure in Reflected was made to be in the centerpiece of From the Ground Up, but it didn't fit. I started working on it and I made it too large. And then that became another piece totally unbeknownst to me. So there's this kind of act throughout my day of rediscovery and pulling things back that I made years ago and pulling them into works for today. To be put together and to be in this community of voices is so powerful. And I feel a sense of belonging in this grouping that I didn't know I was a part of.
Nikesha Breeze works from an Afrocentric, Afrofuturistic lens. Her artistic practice aspires to heal trauma along ancestral lines by reimagining the past to cleanse the present and redesign the future. She recreates rare daguerreotypes of Black subjects at human scales as a way to impart honor and recognition to Black ancestors. Breeze is a co-founder of Earthseed Black Arts Alliance New Mexico, which supports Black, Indigenous, and people of color artists working in northern New Mexico.
My work does draw on history a lot, but I'm actually thinking about futurity when I'm working with history. I feel like the work that I'm doing and my focus is on the invisible places, the empty spaces between, the invisible voices, the unseen stories, the ways that these beings in my work have been made anonymous and erased out of our history. And so I'm working with invisible histories so as to create bridges towards futures, towards real possible futures where all bodies are seen and held and known, and particularly Black and Indigenous bodies are recognized. And so for me, it's historical, but it's Afrofuturist in its foundation. So my process is driven by creating bridges outside of time. And so Black and Indigenous bodies in particular, our physical corporal bodies, have been in every single way through colonization and white supremacy stripped of their autonomy, of their sovereignty, of their actuality. And so I feel like when we as Black artists relate to the body and are incorporating the body and loving the body and nourishing body and showing the body in all of these forms, that we are rewriting the histories. We are, again, the same place of filling in the spaces that have been stripped away. Because the real truth is that the colonization and white supremacy can't actually break our bodies apart. If I recognize what we know in science around intergenerational trauma, as well as how we literally carry our ancestral imprints within our DNA and our cells, my question was, okay, if that's true, which it is, where in my body? And through some deep meditation for myself, I found them inside my bones. When I jump and when I dance and when I feel the drums move through my body, that I'm moving these ancestors, and these ancestors are able then to communicate through me. I fell in love with New Mexico. I moved here 21 years ago, so it's been a really long time that I've been here. My family is originally from here, from the early 1800s. They're some of the first settlers in Blackdom, New Mexico. And so I feel like New Mexico's been in my blood for a long time. This understanding of a long, long history, a land that is embedded with story, with narrative, with care, with people who built their homes out of the mud itself. There's a great spirit here that either keeps you or kicks you out. So for me, it's a fertile, fertile place to grow into your sense of being and to come into true authenticity. The blue corn is a blessing of abundance. Blue corn is a blessing of deep wisdom teachings and medicine teachings. So this piece carries blue corn on her back, the wisdom of the indigenous people. You with this indigo dress, with this cotton crown, which is really like a crown of thorns, which is again shifting the narratives. And then she's filled with the medicinal plants of chamisa, aromatic plants like sage and lavender. There's aspen, which the aspen bark has been used for pain. There's red willow, which is significant to the Tiwa and Tewa people, which they're called the red willow people. And so all of these are connected to deep medicine traditions, and for me, that kinship of indigeneity between plants and people. And all of our non-human relatives, particularly the antlers, carrying that carefulness of the stag moving through, the forest, the ways that we as Black and Indigenous people have to carefully step through the colonized world to be able to carry literally our medicines across time. We're dealing right now with COVID, but also this long-held and absolutely necessary massive revolution of Black life, Black culture, and the mattering of Black bodies. I mean, we, alongside the endless and daily murder of Black people, that is equal, if not more, really is more significant to me even than what's happening with COVID. My art is now valued, just like my life is now valued, right. As a Black person, because the world has finally sort of woken up to the realities that we've been literally screaming it for hundreds of years. And so for me, I guess my process has shifted in that I'm reaffirmed that I'm doing the right thing, and I need to keep doing what I'm doing and do it more and do it louder and do it without and beyond all of the trend. Just keep going, and I've been much more excited about creating and networking and gathering more Black artists around and more Black voices and folks that, you know, are here just, I think to hold what we're all doing even stronger. You're gonna keep hearing us, and we're not gonna shut up, and this, you know, it's gonna stay, and it's gonna stay louder, and we're gonna change the world, because it's necessary.
Noé Barnett is an emerging painter and important figure in the mural community in Albuquerque, New Mexico. His unique life experience has given him the ability to see both sides of a very polarized society, and he uses his work to bridge between diverse communities. Unity is an important theme in his projects as he strives to create opportunities where deeper conversations can be achieved.
What drew me to large-scale mural work was kind of a natural progression. Started very small, drawing like just comic book characters like Ninja Turtles and stuff like that. And then went to art school at UNM, and that's like a natural thing is for professors to push you to always go bigger. And so I started making larger drawings and then transitioned to doing paintings on canvas, and then someone reached out to me to do a mural for an organization called A21, which is just an organization that is centered around raising awareness for human trafficking. Just said yes. I think that's like kind of a theme throughout my career as an artist, is just saying yes. You know, whenever someone asks me a question, I just say like, figure out a way to do it. And so yeah, they asked me to do a mural, and made it happen, and then the rest is history, I guess, for sure. I make all my reference photos on Photoshop, and don't have any sort of like actual sketch. It's more so like a digital rendering, and then I'll either project that with the projector onto the canvas or just sketch it out and then go from there. Same with murals, make a digital image. I'll sometimes print those out so I don't have to have my phone.
Your work is evocative, and through your work you serve as a mediator and unifier. A lot of the work I've seen is monochromatic, black and white, kind of like the Somos Unidos, the mural you did for New Mexico United soccer team. In the context of this show, why did you choose to explore such a colorful palette?
Yeah, so in the spirit of like having everything be symbolic, the monochromatic palette was strategic to try and, I guess, highlight gray areas. I think the world is so polarized right now, and people are on like opposite ends of the spectrum with really every sort of topic and idea. I was trying to literally and figuratively like paint gray areas, and that plays with each painting. And again, it's the amount of colors that we have is infinite, and so I wanted to take that same idea of like working within a spectrum, but like just apply it to color, which is why I moved in that direction for these pieces. I actually worked for APD. I was a police service aide, and the goal, like I had my whole life planned out. You know, I was gonna have a house by this age and like everything. So I worked for APD for 3 years, and then I was in the police academy a few different times. And for whatever reason, every time I'd go in, something would happen. And so like I was at ground zero, like literally a 21, 22-year-old kid, like, okay, like my life's over. Had to decide what I wanted to do with my life, and I wasn't going to do something that I wasn't passionate about or didn't enjoy, and my mom was pushing me to go back to school. I went to UNM and registered for fine art. I had no knowledge of anything in the art world. Like my family was not supportive of me like entering the arts because like you don't have health insurance, you don't have like a stable job. So to be able to sustain income like throughout this time has been good for sure. I just love Rude Boys, and so I always go get like 2 or 3 sugar cookies.
Karsten Creightney uses paint and collage to question mythologies of written history and to reconstruct problematic histories through a Black lens. He makes art as an inquiry by reassembling, reorganizing, and repurposing existing materials to present truths and possibilities that arise from the remnants of the past. Creightney is an assistant professor of art at the University of New Mexico.
You know, I'm mixed. You know, I'm an inner. My mom is from Europe and my dad is Jamaican, and I think more than anything, being a mixed race person has informed my life. Yeah, and so growing up here, there's not a lot of Black folks in New Mexico, and that was something that I don't think I felt the lack of until I moved away. And I went to school in Ohio, a lot more Black people there, and that was the first time I ever got to live in a place that had a real sizable Black population. And I think it was at that point that I really started to re-examine my early life. You know, I make work that celebrates life, right? I'm a Black man. I see Black people in the world. I make art that has Black people in it because I want to reflect that. But in no way I don't want to be, I'll just say this, sometimes I have issues, I've taken issue in the past with shows that have race as a premise for the show, such as this one. I think as Black people, oftentimes we're tasked with depicting the Black experience, which I don't think is fair, really, because I think that, we're all just trying to depict what we know. As an artist, I'm torn because I so much want to just be considered an artist, not a Black artist. I make artwork to answer my own questions. In this piece, for example, there's this notion of, I imagine this figure to be a magician who is trying to figure out how to change from being a victim of the past to a creator of the future. That's the power of art, is like the power to be the creator, to make things the way you want them to be. I try to make a world that actually makes sense, because when I look outside, it doesn't often make sense. Aisha, the child in the picture, was 12, and so just a little play on words. I called it 12th and Resilience, but it's actually it's definitely a real place here in Albuquerque, but it's invented. I mean, those gravestones, of course, aren't really there. I put those in. So this is a photographic collage that I made, and then I made a litho, turned that into a lithograph. This piece is very personal. So it's in one way like a prayer for Aisha specifically. that she is resilient in life, and then it's a prayer for all young Black kids, and all children and all people. Ugh, that's a tough one. I think I haven't yet. Priorities, sacrifice, discipline. You know, I think that's the most important thing as an artist to learn how to do, is to prioritize your time in the studio as if you were punching a clock for somebody else. But really key for learning how to give my work the respect that it deserves.
Kianah Jay's vibrant paintings depict the boundless feminine form. Originally a dancer, she blends her intuitive body knowledge with explosive color palettes, indigenous rhythms, and historical context. Jay is a co-founder of the Friend Zone Collective and a member of the Palace Collective. Long Way Home is a song and aerial installation. I initially wrote Long Way Home after a dream I had of being abducted by an alien spaceship, and how accepted I felt in what my role was in the universe, and how even in this universe I'd created in my mind, I felt more celebrated and more necessary than I've ever felt down here in the earthly realm. And when I started to do aerial silks more heavily back in April, I was made to think about, as I was hanging, I was made to think about how many Black bodies have hung free, like hung with no agency, with no freedom, stripped of privacy, stripped of humanity for white consumption. And there I was climbing these silks, feeling the extent of my ability, my physical ability and my physicality, but I can't unsee the photos of lynching. And when I look at them, I can't not see myself as the hanging body. And here I am being the hanging body. And it was important to me in making this installation that I was telling a story. I think what I want people to understand about it is that it's my own healing and reimagining myself and reimagining Black bodies and depicting them as the powerful entities that they are. I love that about being Black. And I want every little Black girl to see that her strength and her resilience is something to be celebrated at all times.
COVID has been a huge shift in my life, of course. I'm home, I'm in my studio more, I have a lot more time, I'm dealing with finances in all the different ways, and that's just kind of dealing with life.
In a lot of ways, when COVID really took hold in the US, it felt like other people were living my type of lifestyle. So living out in Carrizozo, it's naturally socially distanced. I can easily walk to my studio, I don't see anyone. I mean, I've had a sourdough starter going for 10 years.
You know, not much has changed in my studio, but man, teaching in this has been, it's been a roller coaster.
I can't say that it's changed the process much. I guess just feel blessed in that sense to be able to, like, I had work throughout the whole time, you know, so.
It wasn't really much of an awakening to me, but yet there was this profound sense in which all these deadlines and exhibitions and everything were being delayed, and I had so much more time.
If anything, like my business, like I got jobs because of everything that was going on. I did a mural for first responders, and essential workers, and so I was like getting work.
I thought I had crafted my life for my own making, but I realized how beholden I was, even in my Carrizozo life.
I never pretend to understand something while I'm going through it. I think I need to look back on this moment to understand what it meant to me.